by our stable of sponsors. Well, it was an emotional roller coaster when it came to the Cox Plate after a controversial stewards' room inquiry between State of Rest and Animo. The race obviously ending up with the European galloper in state of rest. We'll get into that in the latter part of the show. A very warm welcome into weigh-in on this Monday morning. And as I get to my co-host, Michael Guerin. Michael, lots of three-year-old racing to analyse today with regards to those important Group 1s coming up in a couple of weeks' time.
Yeah, morning, Emily. A big hi to everybody watching weighing around the country. Welcome to my place on a Monday morning. This is not usually how I dress at my house on a Monday morning, but once again, we're in a tricky situation here in Auckland with COVID. But the good news is, this weekend, we were able to get camera people and Greg O'Connor down to Riccarton to get some on-track interviews, which almost feel like a thing from days gone by. Glad we did, because the three-year-old racing at Riccarton was high class and saw some big market movers, same at Matamata, and then of course later on today at Te Rapa. If you're watching this on a Monday morning, we have more horses in contention for the 2,000 and 1,000 guineas. Emily, I think it's a three-year-old story that has a few chapters still to be written. It'll be clearer by Monday night, but hopefully it'll be a bit clearer by the end of the show.
Yeah, exactly right. There's lots to get through, isn't there? And it seems like two very, very open races when it comes to those three-year-old events. Let's kick things off with one of those three-year-old races from Saturday. We get you to Riccarton and the War Decree Stakes, where Novair was very, very impressive, taking out the race for Jamie Richards and Jason Laking.
Darcy and Fermanar last, turning in the War Decree Stakes. Sorrento grabbed and headed off by Field of Gold. Field of Gold put up a length. Sorrento, Novair's into the clear from Mackenzie Ladd. Field of Gold wobbling about. Novair's charging. Field of Gold. Novair's only a length away from Sorrento and Mackenzie Ladd. Field of Gold. Novair at the 100, the inside. Oh, he burst through Novair, took the lead and raced away with the War Decree Stakes. Novair beats home Field of Gold.
I reckon that'd be a bit of a buzz. Yeah, no, it was. He's a bloody fair animal, I give him that, and he gave him a bit of a head start, but did he knuckle down and hit the line good?
Jason, about the 500 metre mark, there was a fair bit of buffeting for positions. You were trying to get to the outside and ended up having to go through the middle, but it was probably the winning of the race.
Yeah, I think it was. I was a spot further back than I wanted to be, but he's a bit tardy out of the gates and got caught on the fence where I didn't want to be, and I don't think anyone else wanted me there, but I was lucky he was going good enough to get the brakes when they came, so it worked out in the end.
And you had the bulletproof colours on. That always helps, doesn't it? You know the horse is going to have the right polish.
Yeah, as soon as you put them on, you're going to have something under you. And, Sam Burgesson and his team, while they're down there, they're doing an unbelievable job. And these horses that got turned out today, they all look good and race good. So, it's good to be a part of it.
Yep, nice tick over win today. And leading into the Guineas, confidence levels will be rising, won't they?
I'm going to say will be. I think they want them really hitting the line today. So, and going forward, I think they'll be pretty happy.
Gosh, he's a stunner, isn't he? That was Novair, of course, taking out that War Decree Stakes, and awesome to get that insight from Jason Laking as well. Michael, as we come to you, I was really impressed by this horse's turn of foot, the professional racing attitude. He showed glimpses of this when obviously he got well detached from the field at the start prior and closed it off nicely, but really good as well to see him now proven at the 1600.
Yeah, that was the key for me, Emily. The step up to the 1600 metres obviously aided him, because not only did he catch the favourite inside the 200, but he was going away from him inside the last 50 metres, really hit the line strongly. So clearly the 2,000 metres, which is now only, the 2,000 guineas, which is now only 12 days away, is inch perfect for him. Really hard to make a case for the horses behind him, because Field of Gold, while he probably hit the lead a little bit too early because he was superior to most of his rivals, it's hard to make the case he's going to stay the 1600 quite as well as Novair. And then most of the other horses you're seeing in that market are either raced on the weekend or are going to race at Te Rapa later on Monday afternoon. Just going through those, this is crucial. Spoke to Chad Ormsby about Mananui. Even if it wins the Sarton Monday afternoon, they are reluctant to go to the 2,000 guineas. So it's in the market and these things can change, but that's not their plan at this stage. We know I Wish I Win is in the South Island already. Horses like Dark Destroyer, for example, Te Rapa on Monday afternoon will be crucial for them. And there you go, and Imperatriz, who we see very shortly, you would suggest they are heading to the 1,000 guineas along with Art de Triomphe. So those fillies, I would suggest, aren't going to go to the first of the guineas races. The thing with Novia, Emily, is he's down there, he likes the track, he's fit, he handles 1,600, he's ticking a lot of boxes, and then I think the next question mark is probably who's going to ride him. Obviously the stables riders are Opie, your husband returning today at Te Rapa, and Danielle Johnson haven't been able to get to the South Island yet. If and when they can, quite a few of those Tiaka rides could change heading toward the carnival. So that's going to be crucial for market players as well.
Yeah, it's certainly an interesting time, isn't it? Those next couple of weeks will be crucial when it comes to the 2,000 guineas. Let's press on and have a little look at Hasabro this time, who was successful in the Copeland's Mile Trial. This was the 9th on the card for Andrew Carston and winning jockey Jacob Lowry.
Remains in control from August Ace. Lowry easing Hasabro into the clear. Then LB Darcy. Marcus Aurelius let slide down the middle from Severine. And wide out is All About Magic and Rock Sensation. Marcus Aurelius trying to go after Monza Sakito. Hasabro through the middle, then Severine, Beneficial and Rock Sensation. It's still Monza Sakito now grabbed by Hasabro. Hasabro strode to the lead. Monza on the outside, Marcus Aurelius. Hasabro won it and beat Marcus Aurelius.
Yeah, look, really happy with him. He's obviously sent down in fantastic order from Sticko, and he's helped me a little bit along the way, and we'll probably continue to do so. But look, really happy to get that out of the way.
60 kilos today, and he was very strong to the line.
Yeah, look, his first couple of runs have been good. He hasn't put a foot wrong since we've had him, and he's pretty easy to have around the place.
What do you do with him now? Obviously, his next run will be in the mile, one would imagine.
Yeah, he won't do anything now. We'll just keep him fresh, and he will go into the Copeland's mile his next run.
2 from 2.
Yeah, no, he's a nice horse, and he just keeps kicking goals down here.
Jumped beautifully, got himself into the perfect spot, and you had a lap full, forced your way out, and yeah, he was just really strong.
Yeah, for sure. Monza Zucchetto was probably going to be quite a good bunny to chase. He set a good tempo. With 60 kilos, stringing him along like that really suited him, and yeah, when he straightened up, he'd give a good kick.
The Go Racing colours, gee, they've been flying over the last month, and of course Andrew Carson's doing a super job, so plenty of confidence with this horse going into today.
Yeah, for sure. I think they're just very happy with the horse, and I owe a wee bit to Andrew and Go Racing. They're good supporters of mine, and we'll get another good win, and long may it continue.
Might have cop a kilo, maybe 2 for the Copeland's mile, but his record suggests that he's going to be very competitive in the big dance.
Oh yeah, he's a genuine miler. He runs second in the Easter Handicap. And then even if there's a wee bit of rain about, wouldn't hurt him either. It would probably help him a wee bit just from the others. But no, he's a genuine, serious miler and looks well placed.
Yeah, and he went really well, didn't he, to take out that victory. Michael, loved the way this horse showed that good acceleration, and listening to what Andrew Carston and also, of course, Jacob Lowry had to say, he seems bulletproof in his demeanour as well, and that always makes for a good racehorse.
Look, lots to like about not only that win, but his chances in the Copelands, because, Emily, he's there. He's in the South Island, and so many of the horses away from Miss Tycoon Rose, who's the favourite for the Copelands, aren't there, or we're not sure if they're turning up. So Miss Tycoon Rose, Marcus Aurelius, we know, obviously, there. Hasabro, really good, from a wonderful family for Waikato stud, and, of course, has a halo. The sister won the 1,000 guineas on this track. So let's go through the other ones, which you may not be sure about. Brando had a week off after his failure at Hawke's Bay. He's been on the Water Walker, actually, which is becoming even more popular with many of the thoroughbred trainers. He's going to have a quiet week this week, then they're going to work out whether they go down. But the chances of him going down have improved enormously because a flight has been secured next Thursday, not this Thursday, the week after, from Auckland to Christchurch, and a lot of the thoroughbred trainers are very happy about that. Mai Tai, who won at Matamata on Saturday, is unlikely to head down there. And then you have horses like Bari, who you would suggest are also unlikely. So the ones who are in the South Island obviously have an advantage because they're there and therefore the race is on their back doorstep. Interesting to see how the weights pan out too, Emily, because there's quite a big spread when you go through the horses who are unlikely to turn up between the top weight for the race, and we could have quite a few down on the minimum. So it's going to be a really interesting Copeland's Mile. But some of the horses we thought might be heading there, for example, Dragon Leap came out during the week. To Illicit, who won last week at Hastings, is not heading there. A lot of horses who are in the market are unsure, but I'm thinking after talking to Jamie Richards yesterday, Brando is more likely to go than it was maybe a week ago.
Yeah, great information. Thanks for that, Michael. Let's stick around with the Riccarton theme and get you to a replay of the Spring Classic. This one was taken out by Southern Ocean, Lisa Allpress, and it was a decisive win at just a 9th start for the son of Ocean Park.
Lincoln King and D&G. El Gladiador went to and went on by Camino Ricoso. Then Mr. Intelligence and Southern Ocean. It's El Gladiador. Mr. Intelligence and Southern Ocean coming after it from Camino Ricoso. El Gladiador, Southern Ocean, the outside move to the lead. Here's D&G again. Southern Ocean's in front though, and Southern Ocean wins it. Southern Ocean beats El Gladiador. D&G, good late for third. Fourth, either Mr. Intelligence or Lincoln.
It's a good battle down the straight, wasn't it? And Southern Ocean did have to show a bit of ticker, a nice staying performance. D&G making up a good ground late in the piece. Interesting fun fact for you, Michael. This horse's dam, Viana, won this race back in 2013, I think. So certainly reliving the footsteps of the parents.
Well, nice fact. And I spoke to Terry Ray about the horse and she said, look, we love the horse. We're actually lucky to still have it because it was vetted last year for sale to Australia. The sale fell through after several people were keen. Heads to the Metrop next up. That's on the first day of the carnival, then the Cup. And when you look at him, Emily, doesn't he look a horse who will stay the 3200? He's got that almost big sort of rolling English gait to him, which is ironic considering he's by Ocean Park. But yep, he's going to be hard to beat in the Cup, but it's obviously a very even open race. Again, like the Copeland's Mile, maybe a case of who turns up and who doesn't turn up will affect the market. A couple of those, like Penelope Cruz, who was beaten yesterday at Trenton, you would suggest probably unlikely to turn up. D&G, I thought really good there. Emily, a horse we know is going to run 3,200 metres, no concern. So D&G, again, in the South Island, it's there. It's definitely going to be starting. It's one of the horses who'll be a factor in that New Zealand Cup. But I think he probably deserves to be favourite, to be perfectly honest, at Southern Ocean, for all the reasons we've already spoken about. He'll stay, he's there, he's fit, he's happy, and he'll have a top jockey on board.
And also another point on that day at Riccarton was the running of the Road to the Jericho over the 3,000 metres, which of course last year produced the winner in Dragon Storm, and this year was taken out by Sulu Sea. Make sure you have a go back and have a little look at the replay of that. We're going to head to the 2-year-old race from Riccarton now. Gracie's Secret was successful in this one over the 800 metres, a dash to the line.
Back is Heart of Aladdin and 3 or 4 lengths away to Spirited Charm. Grace's Secret the leader. Stimulant the middle. Thimble Theatre wider out. Tap Dancer getting into the clear from Shazza and Jaffa. Grace's Secret a length and a half. Stimulant who's flattening out now. Then Thimble Theatre and Jaffa. Stimulant going out and after Grace's Secret at the 120. Grace's Secret lifting over Stimulant, who has to get busy here. The favourite Grace's Secret holding him off, and they come to the post. Grace's Secret one at a head. Stimulant couldn't reach it. Third in Thimble Theatre. Fourth to go by was Tap Dancer.
Well, Grace's Secret, the progeny of Adam Moss, a nice result. And I think it always, in these races, Michael, comes down to the horses that are professional and are real runners over the 800 metres. And Grace's Secret was exactly that. Eye-catching run, I thought, by the second horse, Stimulant, who just really lovely action on the horse. And I reckon up over a bit more ground, we might be seeing a bit more of this one.
Yeah, Tony Pike was thinking going into the race that Stimulant was ready for 1,000 metres rather than the 800, but because it's the favourite, you tend to discount, the fact it got beaten. The winner was the best horse in the race. I thought it was fantastic. Really good training performance. It's actually funny. You look at its breeding and you would think, oh, okay, there's not a lot there to recommend on the dam side. Its third dam back was a horse people who followed Southern racing 30 or 40 years ago would remember. A horse called a Moto Lass. Very, very fast horse, one of those small circuit, really quick type of mares. Actually went north and contested a Concord back in the days when it was held in Avondale, and that blood's come through. And this horse, who's clearly very fast, I agree with you, stimulant up to the 1,000 metres during the carnival may be better suited. A lot of people probably look at these races and think, 800 metre dash, do they really matter? Are they that good a form guide heading forward? Avantage won that race a few years ago, so there's plenty of good horses have come out of the early 2-year-old races out of Riccarton.
Yes, certainly do. And just before we put that Riccarton meeting behind us, a special mention to the Pitmans as well, Michael, because of course in partnership they got their 400th winner, which is an awesome achievement.
Sure is. Matt's been such a big part of the team for Michael during a tricky time in Michael's life. Obviously he had that health scare a couple of years ago, and yet they're well on the way, Michael's well on the way to 2,000 wins. So well done to them. It's no small deal what they're achieving down there. It's a lot of wins when you add them up, 400 as a partnership, but Michael well over 1,800 and I think getting close to 1,900.
Yeah, remarkable achievement. The other domestic meeting on Saturday was from Matamata, and we spoke about important 3-year-old races. And of course, we saw the Soliloquy Stakes from Matamata on Saturday. Imperatriz came to the fore in a very gutsy performance after missing the start. She was too tough.
Dubai Diva, Ziegfeld, Arisha Reese desperate for room out wide, and here comes down the outside Imperatriz. Imperatriz has burst to the lead here, coming at it now, Dubai Diva, and right through on the inside, Bellon Rouge. Imperatriz needs the post, but she's hanging tough. Imperatriz won it second over Photos. Dubai Diva and Bellon Rouge, and flashing at them late was the perfect pink.
I think George summed it up perfectly there. She was tough, and she certainly was that, Michael. She really impressed me with what she was able to do, seeing out the 1,400 metres, hitting the line really, really well, which is just what you want to see heading towards 1,000 guineas.
Yeah, I think she's forced their hand here about going to Riccarton. Had she been just okay over the 1,400 of this meeting, which of course was moved from Ellerslie to Matamata, then they might have been able to think, well, okay, she might not stay a tough mile at Riccarton, but she came from so far back in the field after missing the kick. You have to go now, and she almost has to be favourite. But I still think in the back of Jamie's mind, having a talk to him yesterday, they're not thinking she's an ideal 1,000 guineas horse, but she's a lovely, big, strong daughter of I'm Invincible. They paid 360 grand for her. She goes down there and wins a Group 1, and she's worth well into the millions. So she'll be going unless something goes wrong. They'll just ease up on her now, give her an easy week, and then again fly her down. A lot of trainers happy about that flight. There You Go is already there, so therefore deserves her favouritism, as is Art de Triomphe, and Team Tiaka have synchronised as well. Looking at this market, Bellon Rouge was really good, so you'd say she might get on the flight as well. Bella Conte, excellent yesterday at Trenton. Had a busy time, Bella Conte, but found the line really strong there for Chrissy Branbury. She'll be heading down as well, so I like this race, Em. I think it's a really cool 1,000 guineas with lots of different geographical area horses, lots of different form lines coming through, and I think plenty of horses who maybe aren't natural 1,600 metre horses, but that's probably the case for most 1,000 guineas. Just talking about earlier the 2,000 guineas M2, bit of misinformation floating around. I think a lot of trainers thought there was the opportunity for a late payment for the 2,000 guineas, and there was, but it was last Wednesday. I spoke to Tim Mills about that, the boss at Riccarton, and he said, look, we need to change that. We realised the gap between last Wednesday and, for example, coming through the Sarton or last weekend's racing, it's too big a gap to the 2,000 guineas, and people don't really have the opportunity to make that late payment after making their decisions on whether to go or not. So it'd be nice to see some uniformity around those type of decisions. The flip side of that is, of course, if you made them on acceptance day, then lots of people who may be on the cusp of heading to Riccarton, whether that's from the CD or from up north, won't know whether to make their travel plans or not because they won't know they're in the race. So I think there's a happy medium there somewhere, but I do think that last Wednesday was way too early for a late payment for a race which is still 12 days away now.
The other race we wanted to show you on the card from Matamata was the 2-year-old event, and we had a dazzling winner in this one as Mascarinto got up to nearly a 7-length victory down on the rail there in the red and black.
Annie James, homeward bound they are at the 200 metres mark. Mascarinto with a very good turn foot here. Put 3 lengths on Pacific Dragon Fellini, then order to charge, and Bestsellers arriving late, but Mascarinto and Sarah McNabb, boy, this is impressive. It has bolted in. Won by panels. Second over was Pacific Dragon, third at the line Fellini, and then we had Bestseller running on.
By Per Encanto, a $120,000 purchase from Hanui Farm out of the Don Eduardo mare Black Mascara. Mascarinto was very, very impressive, Michael, with this win. Looks like a lovely, big, scopy horse and did the job really nicely, the 2-year-old there. And I know, reading an article about Stephen Cole and the team, the phone has been running hot, I think, since this victory, no doubt. Potential purchasers looking to snap up another top New Zealander.
And most importantly, like all 2-year-old races we're going to show you on Weigh In this season, it comes down to, is it eligible or is it not for the Karaka Million? And this one is. And that's crucial, because a win like that this early in the season in a decent stake race means that it's basically in the Karaka Million. So, yeah, all things being equal, they can pick their targets on the way to there. But yes, you would suggest any sale may now be on the back burner until after the big meeting at the back end of January. So it's pretty crucial. It's the first thing you think about these days when you see a horse win a big 2-year-old race by a margin. Is it in the KM or is it not? This one is.
Yeah, it is, and obviously that'll all crank up as we get closer to the end of November and into December before that big race day in January. Let's get you along to Wellington. On Sunday we had the Group 3 Thompson Handicap, and it was taken out by Cheaper Than Divorce, who picked up a first stakes win.
With Monarchy at the outside, and Just Ask Me's coming quickly. Cheaper Than Divorce and Crowning Star starting to pierce through as well. Here we've got Cheaper Than Divorce on the outside. Just Ask Me trying to go the last little bit with it. Cheaper Than Divorce is kicking though. Cheaper Than Divorce racing away with the Thompson the last little bit. Look at it, want to get the line too. And Cheaper Than Divorce will be Just Ask Me. Crowning Star time's ticking. Monarchy behind them. Just a State Tappy's one. And Bellissimo.
A very valuable victory on the resume for Cheaper Than Divorce, who gets the Group 3 win. It is a daughter of Savabeel out of the Group 1 winner Boundless, and I know the connections, Michael, they were concerned about the soft conditions heading into the event, but certainly proved to be no issue, really getting to the line well.
Yeah, wasn't she strong over the last 200? And the track was rated a slow 9, but I think it raced slightly better than that later in the day. She's very new. She has lots to learn still. She ran 4th in the Oaks on this track, but to Amaralina back in March. She's now going to be aimed at the Counties Cup. So Counties Cup for her. Clearly they think that's where she's aiming at. There's sort of 2,000 metre plus races for them. So it spoke to Roger James. He's pretty excited about her future, and he does have a lot of moving parts on the chessboard at the moment, Roger. Concert Hall's going to head to that meeting, which has moved from Ellerslie to Tarapa on Melbourne Cup Day. And as mentioned last week, To Illicit going to be targeted for the Group 1s. She was at one stage in the market for the Copelands, but just confirming for the punters, definitely not heading there.
Awesome stuff, and well done to her breeders as well, Brent, Sherry and Faith Taylor of Trelawney Stud. Well, that's it for our domestic review. We're going to get you off to a break. On the back of that, we get into Group 1 action from across the Tasman, most importantly with the Cox Plate. Today's weigh-in is brought to you by our stable of sponsors. You're back with us on Weigh-In, and as promised, it's now time to look at the Cox Plate. It was one of the more dramatic editions of the race with good Kiwi representation, but the eventual win went to State of Rest.
They're about to pack up. Animo's 5 off the lead. Very Elegant getting going. Captive on at the 500 metres. They're in the middle of the track. Yendel goes for the whip. Here come the runs. Moonga up around the outside. Dalasan trying to cut the corner. Then Call Sign Mav running through them. State of Rest has got the split. 300 to go, and the Irish horse sprints clear. State of Rest a length. Animo follows it through, and Very Elegant to the outside at the 200. State of Rest a neck. Animo. Very Elegant late. It's State State of Rest at the 100. Animo wearing it down. State of Rest just in front of Animo. State of Rest holding on. State of Rest, I think, has just won for the Emerald Isle from Animo and Very Elegant. Then came Mo'unga. Next to finish, Probabile, Dalasan.
Well, it came down to a short head, didn't it? And State of Rest got the win in a tough staying performance over the 2,000 metres at the Valley, trained by Joseph O'Brien. What a remarkable training performance by him, Michael. 2 Melbourne Cups, a Cox Plate now to his name, and a wonderful stayer in the form of State of Rest from Saratoga to the Valley. But the conversation was all about that inquiry up the straight with Animo. What was your take on what happened?
I think often with inquiries, once you've looked at a bit of footage, Emily, your first gut instinct is often the best. And like a lot of football games, if you slow things down to the absolute minutiae of it, you can make a case, either way, and things look far more dramatic. But when you look at it in reality, it's not exactly like Animo had to be checked or he enormously stopped riding Craig Williams. So for me, I was comfortable enough with it because from the top of the straight, these two horses had no traffic. There was just these two going to war. And if Animo was going to run past State of Rest, I think he had enough of the straight to do it. And even post-check or brush, I thought it was more of a brush than a check, he had enough time to regather himself. I know a lot of punters, particularly in Australia, because they would like to see the Australian trained horse win, or, for example, if you backed one or the other, you're going to have a different opinion. But I do think that while we see the brush here, it's a brush, but you're talking about two, effectively 3-year-olds racing on a wet track at the end of a 2,000 metre race. You're going to expect the occasional wobble in stride. So I was comfortable enough with it, Emily. How did you feel after watching all the numerous angles? This one's probably the best of them. What did you make of it?
Well, I think if I'd have been in that situation and I'd finished second, I definitely would have lodged an appeal as well. They did the right thing, and I would have been very fearful of going up against Craig Williams because we know how he can talk. He can talk with a mouthful of marbles underwater, I reckon. But no, I think the right decision to dismiss the protest was made. I think it was too far away from the post, and it wasn't significant enough to have too much effect. But geez, what a beauty Animo is. When you think of the preparation that he's had to have come through that Golden Rose to, against the race pattern, and then to go to the Guineas and win, and then back that up to run so bravely in the Cox Plate. Looking forward to seeing him training on in the future. I think we're going to hear a lot more about Animo. What about the Kiwis, Michael? What did you make of them in behind? Very Elegant, obviously filling that third spot.
Look, had she gone through the field like the first two did, maybe she should have finished closer, but she had to go around them. She was committed to that line a long way from home, and that was the end of her winning chances. She was very, very good. I think the wet track obviously aided her. It absolutely played against Probabile. I feel sorry for the team with Probabile because it rained enough to ruin their chances, but it didn't rain enough for a track downgrade so they could scratch. And I think had they known at 7:30 in the morning just how choppy and wet the track would be, they probably would have pulled her out. But as the day went on, they didn't really have the option because there was no downgrade. So it was just an annoying race for her. Before the start of the race, I'd just written her off. I thought, this is too wet for her. She's got no chance. But yeah, they were committed. The big fella, Coolside Mav, I thought he was just, okay. Hard to get enthused about that. But I also think that maybe 2,000 metres outside the leader, probably not really his go. And I think he's going to be better placed over 1,600 for new trainer Danny O'Brien. But it was an unusual race, Emily, because I think as much as we have a lot of TV shows and a lot of analysis and newspaper words written about horses, I would say 95% of people watching this show, when State of Rest hit the line, probably went, oh, where'd that come from? And they sort of might have heard it had won the Saratoga Derby, but they would probably, more than likely, have never seen a race that's been involved in its life. And that's that weird situation we're finding ourselves in with some of those major races during the carnivals now. The money's so big in both Melbourne and Sydney in the autumn, Emily, that horses turn up. For example, there's a couple this week in the Golden Eagle that people watching this show and punting on have never heard of.
Yeah, I like that aspect. I think that adds to the appeal and makes it feel even more international. But yeah, some brave performances, and of course no more braver than State of Rest. And obviously the race completely changing complexion with the scratching of Zaki in the morning and a Gold Trip coming out earlier in the week as well. Let's get you along to the Invitation. It was a Kiwi success, but perhaps not the Kiwi success we hoped, with Entrevier, New Zealand bred Ice Bath, getting the win in the $2 million inaugural running of the Invitation.
A length and a half clear from Madam Legend, Forbidden Love, Rocket Clock, Ice Bath to the outside. They come up the rise now. It's Vangelic and Entrevier from Madam Legend, Rocket Clock. Ice Bath is chiming in. Forbidden Love's getting a gap. Tricky Gal held up. Anybody's race here. And Ice Bath's come down the middle. Ice Bath moved up to take the lead from Rocket Clock. Then Forbidden Love getting through. But Ice Bath's come from last. And she wins the Invitation, beating Rocket Clock. Forbidden Love third. Then came Entrevier and Angelic. Further back to Madame Rouge.
Well, first of all, we'll talk about the winner in Ice Bath, the daughter of Sacred Falls, who had a wide draw, and I know the team were concerned about the firmer footing, often seen to her best on soft tracks, but that's proved to be no issue for Ice Bath, who got up for the victory in the Invitation. And Michael, no doubt, a bit of sweet redemption there after finishing second in the Golden Eagle. Of course, Ice Bath has always been a wonderful mare to follow.
Yeah, she won over $3 million now. It's a no argument performance because she came from so far back in the field to beat them on a day where that wasn't actually the way it raced for most of the day at Randwick. So good on Brad Widdop and his team, and adds another slight bit of somberness to the Waikato stud Sacred Falls passing. We know what a wonderful stallion he was just emerging to be and has subsequently emerged to be before he passed away. So there was a fair bit of that over the weekend. Tavistock had a hell of a week as well, and we'll see some of those shortly. And of course, he's passed away too. So not a great help for the breeding industry when these type of horses keep passing away. As a Kiwi, you looked at Entrevier, and that was the horse your eye naturally went to in the race. And it couldn't have been a bigger stuff up if you had planned it to be a stuff up. Right from the start of the week, nothing went right for the horse. The whole campaign had been perfect. Everything was beautiful. Here's the things that went wrong. James McDonald gets cleared to go to Melbourne to ride Zaki, who ironically scratched out of the Cox Plate, so he didn't need to go in the first place. Not that anybody could possibly know that. Rain was forecast for every single day in Sydney last week. Every single day on the official website for Sydney, rain forecast, none of it turned up. They didn't water the track. None of it turned up. The track was a good 3, which is the last thing Entrevier wanted. And then with J-Mac gone, they got Tommy Berry, who's obviously a great rider, and he won the race before coming from back in the field on Halal. He won the race after coming from back in the field. But he just made the wrong choices here. He went forward. When you watch the steward's vision, he tried to get into the 1-1, and the gap just closed, and it closed by a couple of feet. But then he had to push the button. But when he did, she just over-raced, and it was just the ugliest of ugliest watches for a horse who was set for the race the day it was announced. Everything had gone well to the week leading up to the race, and then nothing went right for the entire week. I really feel for the connections of Entrevier. Tommy Berry rang Jamie Richardson and said, "Look, I made the wrong choice," and that can happen to any jockey in any race. But yeah, she would have been better back in the field with cover where Ice Bath was, because changing your pattern of racing in a $2 million race very rarely works.
And no doubt we'll see her back to her best very shortly, though. Entrevier, of course, in the Invitation. Let's get back to the Valley, and we'll go to the Vase here, the 3-year-old race with New Zealand bred Forgot You for the Busselton Young team. Was very brave, pinning the ears back on the line.
Then El Rocco and Blackcomb. So as they come to the turn, Commander Harry is 2.5 lengths. Akahiro. El Rocco cut the corner. Forgot You still running on at the 150. It's Commander Harry leading out but getting tired. Forgot You wearing it down at the 100. Still Commander Harry 3/4. Forgot You slowly but surely. Forgot You goes up to Commander Harry and got it. Forgot You right on the line from Commander Harry. Jungle Magnate third from Akahiro. Turned out to be an
couple of Kiwi bred trifecta with Forgot You beating home Commander Harry and Jungle Magnate. We'll start with a chat around Forgot You, a $330,000 ready-to-run purchase, Michael, and that's pretty important as we're just a couple of weeks away from the ready-to-run sale. Beautiful horse, and I just love the way, look at him here, he gets those ears back, he wants to win. To tell you what, he'd give you a heart attack mid-race if you'd backed him at short odds.
Yeah, it's not much fun watching them come off the bit as he has at the Valley all the time. He may not be so inclined to come off the bit at Flemington on a bigger rolling track where he's not spending quite so much time on a tight bend. Daniel Moore riding in wicked form, and well done to Trent Busuttin and Natalie Young. They've had the Quinella there and two huge chances in the Derby heading forward. This horse still in the Melbourne Cup nominations. He's had this integrity done, which all the Melbourne Cup runners need. So, look, I'm not suggesting he's going to turn up in the Melbourne Cup, but if he wins the Derby this week, he gets the option. He's up against Gunstock, who's another ready-to-run horse. So the ready-to-run horse is really shining as Derby contenders. And Tutukaka is in the Derby for Tony Pike. He went to Geelong last week and won the Geelong Classic. And James McDonald confirmed to ride him in the Derby, the younger half-brother by Tavistock. As we mentioned earlier, Tavistock having a huge week to Melody Bell. And he won like a horse, I think, who's going to be a real Derby chance, Emily. So, look, it's a very open Derby, but a lot of informed horses coming in over the last couple of weeks. A lot of informed, recent form horses and lots of Kiwi connections.
Yeah, and some really classy types too. Just speaking of Tutukaka, we can have a little look at that replay from the Geelong Classic of this horse from the Pike stable, who looks to be putting together a really good Derby profile.
Then Max Fire battling on from Fear the X, Shabalala, and to the outside, Choo Choo Kaka. Grinzinger King grabbed by Character at the 200, but here's Choo Choo Kaka who's flashing home. Character joined and headed by Choo Choo Kaka with 100 to go. Character fights back. Choo Choo Kaka a half length in front, punched out. Choo Choo Kaka won the Classic. Character second, Fear the X third, fourth King of Pharaohs, and then Grinzinger King. Next, Daria.
Well, Michael, we might need to give the caller a little bit of an education in where Tutukaka is, because I think it's sounding more like Choo Choo Kaka with regards to his call, but it takes nothing away from the win. It was a very good performance.
He look, poor old Matt Hill. It's a bit tricky when you have words from another country, but I think he might have a bit of a course in how to say Tutukaka before we get to Flemington on Saturday. But a rain forecast for Flemington, that wouldn't bother this horse. He's a horse who doesn't mind getting his toe into the ground, like many of the stock of Tavistock. And one recurring theme here is coming of all the 3-year-olds we're seeing winning on the show today. Imperatriz, Navia, Tutukaka, Forget You, State of Rest is a 3-year-old. All come from back in the field. I think often in this part of the world we get infatuated by speed maps and where horses are going to be and what they're going to do in the run. Every single 3-year-old we've seen win on this program today, even Belaconte, who we didn't see but raced yesterday at Trentham, all come from back in the field. Sometimes, Em, I think it's all right to let them settle and be themselves rather than pushing and shoving.
And just keeping with the theme of the Kiwi breds, it was the gift that kept on giving last week. And of course, on Saturday, we saw Dream Queen successful at the Valley in the William Crockett Stakes. It was a purchase out of New Zealand, of course, formerly trained by Kenny Ray, and went across the ditch to the Lindsay Park Racing team and provided, I'm pretty sure, a first stakes victory for the new combination of Ben Hayes and JD Hayes.
Robadera stoked up, makes a line of 3. Then Dream Queen, our Heidi needs an out. And behind those, Nicolite, Larkspur Run tries to boot away on the point of the corner. Robadera hanging tough, and also Dream Queen the outer. Dream Queen moves up, takes the lead from Robadera. And then came Nicolite, New York Baby from a long way back at the 50 metres. Trying to hold on here is Dream Queen. Dream Queen just in front, and Dream Queen has held on from our Heidi, who was flashing through late in New York Baby. Photo fourth, Robadera.
I just love this story, Michael, because a $1,500 weanling purchase started her career with Kenny Ray, and we always knew she had ability. We could see that even off the back of that last win at Ruakaka, but across the ditch to one of the powerhouses of Australian racing, and provides them with a listed success. And the daughter of Super Easy has certainly had a really good rise to fame.
Yeah, and she's probably doubled her value, if not more, overnight. It's definitely a lot further advanced than the $1,500 Kenny paid for as a weanling. I feel a little bit sorry for Super Easy. I think he does a super job, leaves hardy horses who can win over an array of distances, and yet he's a horse who now doesn't have quite the same commercial appeal as he should when you consider a horse like Bonnie Lass, who he had last season, one of our better 2-year-olds. So effectively he's had 2 of our better 2-year-old fillies last year. So I don't think he's a bad option for people who want to chime in at $6,000 with a mare that sometimes they think about not breeding. It's not going to cost a lot to get him foal to Super Easy. Dream Queen, well, a horse like her, Emily, who has that sprinting profile, has so many options in Australia. Well done to whoever found her. First of all, to Kenny for finding her online for Sue Martin, but secondly, for whoever found her out of predominantly Ruakaka races to buy into Australia. It's a big leap. There wouldn't have been many horses in the last couple of years trained at Lindsay Park's palatial property there in Victoria who cost $1,500 in.
No, there certainly wouldn't. Well done to all the connections of Dream Queen. A horse that we don't get to have a little look at a replay of took out the last race actually from the Valley, and that was Flying Mascot, daughter of Tavistock. First group winner for Tom Dabernick, who of course was formerly with the Lindsay Park Racing team and now training on his own out of Zabeel mare Lucky Mascot. A special mention to them too. And Michael, also I was reading in the news over the weekend, Ribchester got his first stakes winner, Flaming Rib, a 1-length winner in the listed Doncaster Stakes. No doubt a nice boost for Hanui Farm.
Yeah, and look, he's a great-looking stallion, Ribchester, and he leaves great-looking yearlings. They sold very well, actually, at the Tattersall sale. They didn't have a lot of them up there, but they did sell well, plenty of them over the last 2 weeks. So, yep, get the feeling that line, which has been so successful in New Zealand, the Ifraj line, now through horses like Wooten Bassett's just going to continue to be a bigger part of our breeding heading forward. So, yes, he had his knockers 10 years ago, did old Ifraj. Then he had that golden crop of Ginger Nuts and John Snow. And since then, he's had plenty go right for him. And Ribchester now is going to continue that.
Yeah, looks that way. Well, let's get you off to a break here on Weigh In. And on the back of that, we head back to our domestic action and we catch up with Tim Mills with regards to all things Cup Week. Today's Weigh-In is brought to you by our stable of sponsors.
Tim, in your 30 plus years in administration, you wouldn't have seen anything like this.
No, we've had a few things, Greg, as you know, the likes of earthquakes and floods and hailstorms and normally Mother Nature, but yeah, COVID, that's something different. Mother Nature with a sting in the tail.
Let's talk about what this means for the weigh-in viewers at home. What is New Zealand Cup Week going to look like?
Well, I suppose if you're at home looking through the TV, Greg, you don't appreciate the lack of atmosphere on course. No different to the racing we've watched over the last year or so from Australia. We've all been able to witness in our lounges or our pubs or our clubs, and you're sitting there watching some great racing and not realising that the club on site is having a catastrophe. And I suppose if you're sitting in other parts of New Zealand, you'll be looking through the TV camera and seeing and hopefully witnessing some outstanding racing. Here on track, of course, it'll be a different story.
It's been tough for everybody involved in the game and everyone in New Zealand for that matter, but I'm picking it's been pretty harsh on your staff because they love this carnival.
Look, everyone does, Greg. It's what we work for all year. It's our test match. And, you know, having to sit down and put plans in place to restrict the crowd as opposed to what we're normally doing, trying to work hard to build the crowd. And, you know, last year it was euphoria when we sold out 15,000 people on the Thursday beforehand, and there were a few high fives and a couple of Jimmy Spates broken out that night. But, you know, complete opposite this week. Funnily enough, there's more work involved in putting some of these non-event meetings together. I say non-event in the sense of people attending than there is on a normal race day. And, you know, that just puts a bit of added stress and pressure on. And whatever, you know, we know we're racing. That's the main thing, and we get down, knuckle down and get it done.
Okay, for those outside the regions, what does this actually mean? There's no opportunity to attend, or explain to me what it means for members, owners and the like.
Well, it's restricted attendance, and the attendance has been dictated to by the footprint that we can create whilst providing a seated and served opportunity and enabling social distancing of the 1 metre. And when you sort of put that all together and realising, of course, we still haven't got the big stand, temporary infrastructure and the likes, we think we'll get somewhere around 2,000, maybe 2,250 or something like that seats out there. It means we can't have our car parks, we can't have our big mosh pit with the young people up at the 400 metre mark, we can't have the members reserve car park because it's impossible to do seated and served and ensure the social distancing. So we've had to sit down, that's determined our numbers. We're going to start with the sponsors because there's some huge sponsorship, and we've got some wonderfully loyal sponsors that have been with us for 2 and 3 decades. The owners, particularly starting with the horses, are those that have got horses in the races that incur the biggest fees, down to those that don't pay a fee, and of course our membership, because we get an awful lot of money from our membership. So we're going to try and cater for those 3 groups, and if we've got empty seats at the end, they'll go in, for the open market, for want of a description.
All right. Information-wise, where do people need to head?
The website. We'll be contacting owners, members directly, and when we know what our count is, we'll be able to go public with, hopefully, that there's a certain number of tickets for sale.
We've just seen an outstanding performance from Novair, the racing that's going to be on the track here. We saw his stablemate Imperatrice just put on a performance in the Soliloquy. So the quality of horses here.
Oh, look, I think it's going to be super racing again. The Barneswood Farm 1,000 guineas and the Albasti 2,000 guineas. Sorry, Barneswood 1,000 guineas is always draws a super field. I mean, you just look at last year's 2,000 guineas. I think there were 4 nominations for 3-year-old of the year, and 3 of them started in the race. So that's the sort of quality we get to see. The Cup's always a massive betting race. It's dictated to by numbers. It's a handicap. The punter's challenge to find who's going to win. Will it stay the 2 miles? Will it not stay the 2 miles? How does that relate to the weight? And the betting's huge. And look, we'll have wonderful racing again, there's no doubt.
Well, we wish you all the very best on behalf of Weigh-In. I know it's been a challenge, but I'm sure that everyone's still looking forward to another great week here in Canterbury.
Oh, look, we've been around for 165 years. We'll be around for another 165. The club has obviously been through, world wars, depressions, the 30s. We'll be around through this one.
Gosh, you have to feel for the club, don't you, with regards to the decisions that have been made. And Michael, I just feel for them because the South Island's surrounded by water. They haven't been as severely impacted by COVID as us up in the North Island. And it just seems such a shame that they have to miss out. But from what they're saying, really logical solutions to be able to allow some people to get on track there and enjoy their horses racing.
Yeah, look, it is tough, Emily. I think everybody in racing would love to see crowds on track, but for the people who work in these clubs day in, day out, they go to those buildings every day. This is a huge deal for them. It's a huge focal point of their lives for people also at Addington for the harness racing, and to have that purpose taken away is really tough. Now, we're not going to over-dramatise it. There's a lot bigger things going on in the world than race meetings, and our industry's still going ahead, and trackside will have a lot of great coverage for the people who have to stay home to watch it. But economically, there's been studies that have shown that Cup Week in Christchurch is worth the same as 2 All Black tests. Because while the events themselves may not be as big as an All Black test for the town, people come, they stay for longer, they spend more money during Cup Week. And that's going to be felt not only by the CJC, by Addington, by the people at the Greyhound clubs, but people in bars and restaurants and hotels, because it's really hard. Even if you can get there, say you don't live in Auckland, so you can go to the carnival, people probably aren't going to go to Christchurch when they have doubts over whether they can get to the races. So I feel for the people involved. I would have thought, and I'm not going to get into the government's response to COVID, or I think it's been pretty good, but people have their own opinions, and I'm not an epidemiologist. But I would have thought if you could have a trial of the new vaccine passports, and we heard from Bernard Saundry on SENZ radio this week that it's set in stone. There'll be no going to the races in this country unless you're double vaccinated by around Christmas. So participants and people who want to go to the races and enjoy themselves in, without vaccination, double vaccination, you're not going to the races ever again in this country. And that's harness racing too. Gary Woodham from Harness Racing New Zealand told me that yesterday. So that being the case, this would have been a perfect test case, like Ascot was last year actually in England, for saying, okay, if I'm double vaccinated, can I go to the races? I know it's not quite that easy, and I know that's totally out of the hands of Tim Mills, but I would have thought that would be a pretty fair chance to say to the young people of Canterbury, hey, this is as good a time to get vaccinated as ever. So I'm not saying it would have been an easy thing to pull off, Emily. I think a lot of people would have liked to have seen that done in the South Island. Obviously you can't in the North Island, but we're now dealt the cards we've got. And I'm sure the trackside will do a great job of covering it for people. I believe also SENZ Radio is looking to have a Cup Week radio show every day of the week. So every day of the week, they're going to say to people, we have Cup Day at Addington, Guineas Day, Copeland's Mile Day. There's going to be huge media coverage of these events, but it's not quite the same as being there.
No, it isn't quite the same, but it'll have to suffice for this year. The other thing I just wanted to have a chat to you about, Michael, was that NZTR direction paper. I know you're pretty busy on Twitter, and I saw you tweeting up a storm during the week about it. I haven't had anything to do with it. Break it down for me. Explain it to me in layman's terms, what I need to know.
Well, to anybody watching this show, it's a chance to go to loveracing.co.nz and scroll through the stories, and you'll find there's a direction paper being released by NZTR about where they're heading. Now, we've heard over the last couple of years this new direction for them. This sharpens it up. It tells you what NZTR is planning to do. Now, they're giving you the chance to have feedback. Anybody in the industry, you can read the paper and say, well, I like this, I don't like this works well for me. A couple of the key things out of it, grouping our clubs into the metro clubs, the main clubs, where the main race days will be held, then down to community level clubs. So some clubs which thought they were going to be closed 3 years ago through the Masara report, and this show argued harder than anybody to make sure some of those things didn't happen. They've now been told, hey, you're community clubs, different level, but you'll be sticking around. We think you're valuable to the industry. One of the other key things is a championship day, maybe called Aotearoa Championship Racing Day, New Zealand Championships, whatever you want to call it. Toward the end of the season, Emily, in autumn, every race worth $200,000 at least, to say this is our version of the championships coming out of Randwick. Lots of meaty detail here on how they're going to structure racing, thoroughbred racing in this country heading forward. If you don't want to read the document, for people watching this at home, that's totally your right. But then you don't get to complain afterwards about what's happened, because this is NZTR saying to anybody involved at any level in thoroughbred racing in this country, here's what we're going to do. What do you think? So that's available on loveracing.co.nz. Muck around, have a read of it. It's probably quite a long read, might take you half an hour or so over a cup of coffee, Emily, but it's well worth reading. I've read the entire document. It's incredibly positive. There is nothing in it I find a negative, and I think it's going to explain to a lot of people what we are hoping to see over the next 2 years. It's a big document. Well done to Bernard and his team for putting it together.
Yeah, sounds like certainly something that you want to have a little look at if you do want an opinion on how New Zealand racing might look. A big thank you to Michael Guerin for his company throughout this morning on Weigh In. If you're watching this in Monday morning, then enjoy the meeting coming out of Te Rapa, of course, with stakes racing action. And we'll see you next Monday at the same time for more of Weigh In.